Thank you for coming tonight, and our first speaker will be Becky Steinbrunner, right? Or Jean Brocklebank, sorry. And a wife, mother, and grandmother, Santa Cruz resident since 1979, trained biologist at UCLA 1968 and UCSC 1982, and longtime community activist. She will be speaking on how organizing on the impacts of the 7th and Bromer development has shown us specific ways to become engaged productively in the democratic process available to all of us. Please welcome Jean Brocklebank.
Thank you. No, I don't need the podium. Unless you'd like me to. Oh, okay. Yeah. There's less of a. That light is quite bright over there. So, and you can tell that I'm not going to be using the screen or computer. These are my notes. I thank you, first of all, Bruce, for inviting me here tonight. In addition to the other things that were said about me in my bio, is that I do live in Live Oak now. And I want you all to know, most importantly, I am an environmentalist. And so now we have full disclosure. So you know that I'm an environmentalist. And what that means for me is that my passion for preserving and protecting both the natural world and the world that we live in, because we are animals also in this natural world, that my passion is informed and my environmentalism is informed by science, primarily the sciences of biology and ecology being the study of the interconnectedness of things to each other in their environment. Toss in some physics and some chemistry. So although I have heartfelt passion and have been an environmentalist for 41 of my 73 years, my environmentalism is informed by science, and that's why I appreciate that the Freedom Forum is a forum for people to become informed, because information is powerful stuff. Growth and development. A lot of people see growth and development in different ways. For me, as a scientist, growth beyond maturity really is a definition of a cancer cell. And if we grow too much within the bioregion, or the biosystem where we live, and we exceed the ability of the resources that we exploit as we grow and develop, because growth is normal, it's perfectly natural. We all grew up, right? If we exceed that, then, we've exceeded the ability of our bioregion, our biosystem, to replenish those resources that we're exploiting. That's not good. You can't go, things that can't go on forever don't. And the same thing with the production of waste as we live in our communities. If you produce waste faster than the region can assimilate it, then you've got too much waste, and that's not good and healthy for you. So that's how I look at growth and development. I don't say all growth and all development is bad, but I do look at it in terms of the carrying capacity of both our homes, our neighborhoods, our communities, and quality of life is more important to me than quantity of life. So I was asked tonight to talk specifically about one development project, and I'm going to do that. I'm hoping to only speak for about 10 minutes, and then I'd like to open it up to questions, because rather than you listening to me, I might be able to get out more information to you by answering some of your questions. The development one of the developments that I've been involved with is the proposed development at the corner of 7th and Bromer near the harbor. Could I see how anybody familiar with that at all, that 7th and Bromer? Okay, so about a third of you are. The status on that right now is we don't know what's going to happen. But how we got to where we don't know what's going to happen is very interesting. And basically, the short history is that in 1994, the county general plan had a preferred alternative for that property. It was an old Emilio's farm. It was the last farm, working farm, in Santa Cruz, in Live Oak. And that preferred alternative was for parks and recreation and open space. That was in 1994. In 2000, things started to change. The County Redevelopment Agency got involved, and part of the problem there was that the County Redevelopment Agency wanted to develop that. That's why it's called redevelopment. Heavy on the development part. Wanted to develop that, even though the preferred alternative in the general plan for that was parks, recreation, and open space. There was an alternative option for visitor accommodation. And throughout this process, what happened is that when we weren't looking, there were things that happened either in county commissions or county redevelopment agency meetings or with the Board of Supervisors. Somehow or other, the whole thing morphed when the planning director of the county submitted a staff report that changed the preferred alternative of parks, open space, and to one of visitor accommodation with a bit of a park. And this was in, I think this was, I'm going to check my notes here, I think this was 2007 this happened. Yeah. No, it was yes, it was 2007. Backing up to 2005, the County Planning Commission, not the Planning Department, the Planning Commission had recommended that the redevelopment agency buy the entire parcel for parks and open space. But the planning director ignored the Planning Commission recommendation. The Planning Commission had listened to the people, and the people wanted parks, but the planning director unilaterally by himself changed that intent for redevelopment agency to buy this property to one of visitor accommodation. It gets worse over the years. It gets worse. As recently as last spring, that planning director, who is now retired, attended, Becky, I don't know if you were at, where are you, Becky? I don't know if you were, oh, there you are. I don't know if you were at that meeting to take community public input of what people would like to see there. And when they sat us around, and you know how they break you apart, you sit in these little circles and you talk to each other, and that keeps you from talking to anybody else, right? Well, he was in one of those circles, and he lied. And he said, somebody asked, do we really have to have a hotel there? And he said, yes, the Coastal Commission says you have to have a hotel. That was a lie. And that lie was perpetrated, wasn't it? And the reason I'm telling this story is because the best thing that any of us, you, me, can do is to properly inform ourselves before you go to these meetings, or so you may go to these meetings, so that if somebody says something that you know is not true, you can say, oh, but wait a minute, your document here that I got offline from your county website says just the opposite. And you see, when you quote their documents and their rules and their regulations back to them, they can't deny it. They can hem and haw, but they can't deny it. So what we do, and when I say we, I don't do this alone. My partner, my husband, sitting here in the front row, he and I are a team, and I'm more vocal than he is, but he's the best webmaster in the world. And so what we do is we decide if an issue is important to us, and then we talk to other people who say, yes, that issue is important. And then we create a campaign so that the 7th and Bromer issue, we try to find a positive word rather than a negative word. Stop the hotel, stop the hotel, negative. Harbor Neighbors. That's the name of our campaign. Harbor Neighbors. We have a website called Harbor Neighbors. It's easy. You just go to Google and you type in Harbor Neighbors, and we're the only Harbor Neighbors website that Google will give you. So you can find us online, Google Harbor Neighbors, and you can go to our websites. And this is important for any of you who are thinking about doing this. They should be user-friendly. Don't have a whole bunch of moving parts, fancy things that disappear on the screen. They should be crisp, clear, and simple. And the website should also function as a library, because we can make impassioned statements all we want to, but if you really, really want to stop government from doing bad things, you have to be able to quote facts to them, information and documents and places where they can go and confirm that what you're saying is true. So the website is, all of our websites are like this. They're very user-friendly, and they're kind of like libraries. And if you want to know, there is a little menu for, here's the parcel history. Here's the history of Emilio's farm and what happened between 1923 and 2017. And it only takes 5 minutes to read it, so you can inform yourselves. And then we also always have a contact us link on our website. And this is how people can get engaged in that campaign also. In this case, for Harbor Neighbors, we have 67 people on an emailing list. We can send out an update, an alert, and we've got 67 people, and you know that there's 67 people who are going to do something and care, and that makes a difference. We have another campaign, other than Harbor Neighbors. Well, we have lots of them. Michael and I are retired, so we have extra time on our hands. We're not retired from work, but we're retired from being paid by employers. But since this is a Freedom Forum, you might like this one. We have another campaign called Freedom from Fireworks. And we have 189 people on that emailing list who are up to here with having their neighborhoods blown up every 4th of July and having to breathe the fumes of the leftover fireworks. And so we did the same thing with that one. We've got all of the laws for the county, all of the laws for the state. You can find information. And to do that, if you're making notes, just Google Freedom from Fireworks. Then one last example is it was Mark who asked me to be sure to mention don't bury the library. We did go negative on that one because it sounded so good. The city of Santa Cruz is thinking of building, getting rid of the old library because, old doesn't count anymore. Everything has to be brand new. We've got all this free money, right, to build this stuff. They want to put a new downtown library branch in the bottom floor of a multi-storied parking garage. And that's why our campaign is called Don't Bury the Library. So if you're interested in that one, and again, just Google for Don't Bury the Library, and you'll find a website that tells you everything you ever wanted to know about the downtown library and what you can do to help. In this case, the final meeting of a library advisory committee which turns out to be just another one of those rubber stamp committees, right? So the city can do whatever it wants to do. That final meeting is on January 25th. At the downtown library upstairs meeting room. But if you're really interested in going to that and being involved in that, just Google for Don't Bury the Library, go to our website, click the contact, and send your name and say you'd like to become engaged or at least receive the updates. Okay. So I've wandered all over the place, haven't I? I started talking about the development at 7th and Bromer. We will find out probably in a month or two what the developer who was chosen by the county to develop that is, no surprises, Barry Swenson Builder. There were two submittals to the second request for proposals. One of them was actually a submittal from the Santa Cruz Port District, the harbor. The harbor had decided that they kind of might like to be involved in developing that, and we talked with one of the port commissioners, the port commission members, and he had some really very interesting and creative ideas, but they weren't chosen. Barry Swenson Builder was. The county is now in the process of coming up with what they call their DDA, Development and Disposition Agreement, with Barry Swenson Builder, and that's basically what Swenson wants to do there, including public benefits. So that will be announced soon on the county website, which, as many of them are, difficult to find. Of course, the city makes it even more difficult than the county. The county, you can use a certain amount of energy and find stuff. It's really difficult with the city. It helps to have somebody like Michael, who can turn on a computer and he can find stuff that I wouldn't have found before. So find yourself a partner who's really good with computers, and then you become a team, you see, because one person can't do it all, and one person can't do all of it. And so it's a good idea to find like-minded people, if they're your neighbors, if they're your family members, if they're strangers that you happen to be talking to, talk about these things, and then get busy and get to work, because we all have complaints, we all have frustrations, those of us who have watched what has happened to Santa Cruz in the last 30 or 40 years have a lot of sadness too. But if you just sit around and be angry, it's going to stress you out, that's going to affect your health, and you're not going to get anything done. So even though sometimes you don't win and sometimes you lose, there's something very energizing about at least trying. And a few of the speakers earlier were talking about health concerns with things in the environment, which, as a scientist, I'm skeptical of some of those things that were announced. I will say that, because with no disrespect to the people who are providing that information, some of that just is not factually true. But the point is, the things that we can do for ourselves, for our health, are things that don't cost money and just take a decision to do them. My husband and I eat nutritious food. I grow some food so it's organic, but we don't eat all organic food. But you eat nutritious food, you get good sleep, and you engage yourself in life someday, somehow every day. We happen to walk. We live over off 7th Avenue near Bromer, and we walk to this meeting tonight, and we will walk home to this meeting, from this meeting, and we will not be afraid when we walk home. We will walk home briskly, and we'll talk to each other, and we will not let fear keep us from walking in this community at night. And so that's our health insurance. nutritious food, good sleep, and daily walking. And I'm 73, Michael's 68. We have no medications. We have no no arthritis. I can't do as much as I used to. My back hurts a little bit, but basically we are in good health. And a lot of that has to do with the power that self-help power that you have to get engaged in a community issue. So, do we have time for questions?
Yes, we certainly do have time for questions. Thank you for the presentation on the harbor project. Right. Well, before the questions, we're going to take up an offering here. We're going to see if we can't garnish a little bit extra from what. Let's see. What do we have? We have one.
Are you going to pass the cup?
I'm going to pass the cup.
I'm going to drink some water.
Here we are. This is an assembly project here. It's my engineering skills. All right. There we go. All right. This is the pitch. We need Federal Reserve notes. And why do we need them? Because they want for rent, insurance, publications, the literature. I don't get a dime off this thing. And neither does anybody else. We put into it time and effort and sometimes a few bucks of our own. So just asking you to give generously, and if this means anything to you and the truth that throughout this land means anything, just give if you can.
And if you would like to ask a question, if you could just raise your hand and I will bring you a microphone. We have the sound going into the video camera. We're videoing this, so we'd like to get your questions on the audio for it. So just hold up your hand. I'll bring you the mic.
Are you videoing this?
Yes.
I forgot to wave. I didn't know that. Thought it was audio.
Thanks for your presentation. I wasn't aware of this hotel thing at all. Is the location, I was picturing it across from that mobile home park, but you mentioned Amelia. He used to own that property on 7th Avenue where the park ends. Is that where the location is? It used to have flowers and...
When you go, if those of you who ever go in down Bromer Street into the harbor, you go into the upper harbor down Bromer Street.
When it tees into 7th Avenue.
That whole undeveloped area there to the left. Sometimes the sports fishers will park their boats and trailers on that corner.
Yeah.
You'll see during fishing season.
But is it where Bromer tees or dead ends into 7th Avenue? So it's all that land along 7th Avenue that's empty?
That's south.
The harbor.
On the
toward the ocean. Toward the
west corner of 7th Avenue. That entire, it's about 3 acres, Michael? Is that correct? 8 acres, I'm sorry. 8 acres total.
That was Amelia and Rose's property.
Emilio, yes, that was Emilio
We
Maggiolo.
did the computer billing for their park for them years ago.
And in fact, if you want to read a really neat history of Emilio's farm, go to the Harbor Neighbors website and click on the link for the history, parcel history, and there's a little drop-down menu that says Emilio.
They were the sweetest couple. I think he would roll over in his grave if he knew a hotel was going there instead of parks for the community.
Yes, as a matter of fact, after he died, his family had suggested to the county they wanted to build their own hotel and spa and retail space there. That was Emilio's descendants. So he was probably rolling in his grave first. This was in 2005. The county said, I think a development that size is going to cause too much traffic and extra noise, et cetera. So fast forward 12 years later, and the county is now thinking of doing the same thing. Okay.
The Downtown Library Advisory Committee, which I've monitored, and so has Mark Lee, for example. And Mark's got very good information on the fact that nobody has to spend $23 million to have an adequate library downtown that's been proposed, that 11 or 12 or 10 would be adequate in the existing building. It's another example of Santa Cruz County government ripping us all off irresponsibly spending other people's money. I wish I had never voted for the library bonds. I was conned. We were all conned. At best, they needed 30-some million, not 75.
Is there a question in there
My
for
question
me?
with that is, I understood that the city council has already accepted the Downtown Library Advisory Committee recommendations for building the 23 million at the combined garage location. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
So it's not correct. So the
Yeah.
25th, is that an opportunity for the city council or the advisory committee?
The meeting on the 25th is the last one of those advisory committee meetings. The city council will probably not have the report from that. This was a 10-member citizen advisory committee. And I won't go into
rigged.
how much, well, I agree with you, how it was lousy work from the get-go. But specifically, the meeting on the 25th is their last meeting to formally approve their report to the city council. That report will not be on the city council agenda until probably March or April. And so you'll either have to watch the newspaper for that, or if you want to Google for Don't Bury the Library and get on our mailing list, you'll hear when that happens before probably anybody else, because we will be publicizing that on our website. So it will be March or April when the city council gets it, and there will be a public meeting then also.
Is there a Coonerty family connection, our resident crooked, corrupt boss hogs of Santa Cruz County, with the project? I've been told there is.
I don't know. I don't know that. But I do know everything else about the plans to build that library.
Thank you for your good work. And I was at that meeting, the community meeting, where they broke everybody into little groups regarding the 7th and Bromer, and then they again put people back together and showed pictures of hotels. Do you like this hotel or that hotel? And in every case, the audience booed. and so I find it interesting now that the Board of Supervisors say, yes, at this public meeting, the people wanted a hotel. And at that meeting, I and other people also came up to the consultant facilitator and said, look, we've been to this before, and we know what you're going to do, and we want you to represent what we're saying here tonight. So to the credit, they went around and put photographs of everybody's little group tablet up that said no hotel, but they went ahead and did it anyway. So I think I would like to hear from you. What is the best means for people to really get their opinion to stick when there are these types of community meetings where things get distorted to fit the plan of the developer and the county and city?
Well, that's a really good question, Becky, and I'm not sure that I have an answer for you. The only thing I can say is the best thing that we can do is show up at those meetings and make our statements part of the record. And then if the county or the city decides to do something that goes completely against the grain of what was recommended, in other words, do you all understand what a perfunctory meeting is? You know, a community meeting? It's perfunctory. They have it so they can say they had the meeting, and then they go ahead and do what they want to do. The final thing that any of us can do, and it's very difficult to do that because we're usually people who care, but we don't have oodles of money, is to sue them. And if we don't make a public record, this is what the public said, it's here in the minutes, it's here on video, it's here on audio tape, and yet you ignored it. We have to have that record if we have any chance at all to win. With regard to the 7th and Bromer property, I will say that we did win initially because Ryan Coonerty is the 3rd District Supervisor, and believe it or not, that parcel, even though it's on 7th Avenue, that parcel is, because of the gerrymandering, that parcel ends up being in District 3. And so District 3's supervisor was the lead supervisor for this proposal and how it was going to happen.
Who is that?
Ryan Coonerty. Ryan Coonerty. And we wrote to Ryan Coonerty and we said, you haven't had a public meeting yet, you haven't heard from the community, why are you proposing, why are you having the County Economic Development Department put out a request for proposals when you haven't listened to the public yet? And his initial response was, we will have public meetings after we will have the developer have the public meetings. So we'll choose a developer, and then we'll have, don't worry, you'll have plenty of time for your public meetings. And we said, no, that's wrong. Now, to give credit to Supervisor John Leopold in the 1st District, and I know you have problems with John about a lot of other things, in this particular case, we talked to him, and he said, I can't get involved, Jean, in Ryan Coonerty's district, but when it comes to doing the same thing for the property on Capitola Road, Capitola Road, just next to the Live Oak Super, there's another piece of redevelopment. When it comes to that, we're not going to do what Coonerty did. We are going to do it we are going to have a meeting first before we put out an RFP. Well, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I know that there were, the first RFP, request for proposal, that was put out for the 7th and Bromer had no takers. They didn't get anybody, And so they put that to bed. And when it reared its ugly head again, they did it the right way, and they had a public meeting. Again, one wonders how much the public was listened to, but I'll tell you one thing, we do have an online, not our website, but the county has online records of what the people said. And so we can just keep working at them and saying, this is what people said that they want there. Yes?
Was the land at 7th and Broad donated?
Oh, I can, because she's...
Yeah, I remember hearing before 2005 that I thought the original family was going to donate the property. Do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about possibility of a donation. I do know that I think it was 2000, let me check my notes here. Yes, it was in 2000. The county bought the long strip that goes from 7th Avenue all the way to the back. There's a kind of a long rectangular strip. That one was for sale, and they bought that from the family for $802,000, and as dedicated park. They used a county policy that gave the county the first right of refusal to buy that property based on the fact that it was going to be dedicated as parkland. And they used that specifically, and that's why it was so annoying, because they did that in 2000, saying that it was going to be park, that particular strip. And so then 7 years later, when the rest of the property was for sale, for them to say that their intention was to purchase it for visitor accommodations or hospitality development. They keep changing the name, too, of what it is. But no, I didn't know that. I do know that the Emilio's family was very annoyed when the county would not accept their proposal for development of a hotel, spa, and retail. And they just threw up their hands and they said, well, the heck with it then, we're just going to sell the property. And they took the county for $6,600,000. And a year and a half ago, when this whole process started, it was at the end of our Great Recession, and that property was appraised. There's an appraisal report document on our our Harbor Neighbors website. It was appraised at $2 million, $2.5 million. So the county, because redevelopment money comes from the people, right? So the county spent $6,600,000 of our money, and they bought a property that 5 years later was only worth $2 million, and it's still not worth $6,600,000. Because as soon as it gets close to being worth that much, we're going to be in our next Great Recession. Remember, the next recession's only not even a year away. It's coming, to a neighborhood, a community, a county, a city, a state near you. California is in dire straits right now, and so is the county, and so is the city.
Can you tell us the director's name that decided on this hotel?
Pardon me?
The name of the director?
Oh, the planning director?
Yes,
It was Tom Burns.
Tom Burns. And why was he there at the meeting after he retired?
Well, he's a private citizen, a resident who probably lives in Live Oak, and I can't.
I'm assuming
you'd have to
he was
ask.
paid to.
He was not there
push
in. Yeah, he was not there in an official capacity.
Okay.
But I think he was there to protect what he's wanted all along. I can't speak for him, and he's
Okay.
not in the room
My other
to defend himself.
thing, I was wondering if anyone here has heard of SaveSantaCruz.com. It's quite a large group, and it would behoove you to join it because we're fighting the development on Rio Theater, who has already gotten letters, and Ebert's.
Yeah.
They've gotten eminent domain letters already.
I'm very supportive of Save Santa
Yeah,
Cruz.
and we need to do it quick, and Gary Patton's on board.
Yes.
And it's, I recommend all of you go to sign the petition so we don't have this overbuilding on, it's the triangle. It'll be all of SoCal up to Morrissey and then down water to ocean.
Now, you guys have a Facebook page,
Yes,
correct?
SaveSantaCruz.com.
Facebook.
No, it's.
Or website.
It's a website.
Oh, you have a
Yeah.
website?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who are either
There's a
mentally remembering all
petition,
these or
yeah.
making notes, SaveSantaCruz.com.
So
I'm very
It's all about all this, what you're doing too.
Yeah, I'm
so-
very familiar. We're overwhelmed, aren't we? It used to be 30 years ago, we'd get one huge development proposal and everybody would get engaged and work and hard, but there are so many of them coming at us now so fast that it's... Yeah, well, good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I'm completely supportive of what you're doing, absolutely.
I
I'm
just have
done.
one quick question.
Yeah.
If they're going to build a visitor accommodation building facility, is it going to be a private facility? And if so, who is going to be operating it?
Okay, when the agreement is made between the county and Barry Swenson Builder, my understanding is that Barry Swenson Builder is going to buy the property. And the reason is because the county is required to sell this property, and the money that they get for the property is supposed to go to what it was supposed to go to when there was a redevelopment agency. It's supposed to go to schools and the fire district. That's what redevelopment was supposed to be all about. So when not making developments or doing stuff that didn't benefit the community. So they have until 2019 to sell that property. I may be wrong on the date, but they have to sell that property. And so the property will be sold to Barry Swenson. The proceeds from the sale does not go to the county. It goes to the school districts and the fire districts. And then Barry Swenson Builder will be the property owner. Now, there is one thing to keep in mind in terms that, and they may have heard us on this, I'm not sure, Becky. My gut tells me we're not going to end up with a 4-story hotel at 7th and Bromer. I think that if they're going to do anything, it's going to be smaller, one motor court type visitor accommodations, maybe 2-story with some retail, more neighborhood serving than tourist attractions, even though they sold this project by telling the people over the hill that you're only an hour away from, there's 2.6 million residents, tourists, who are an hour away from this in terms of selling that. But I think that when it's over, I don't think we're going to have that kind of a hotel. I could be wrong, of course, but there is a possibility that it's going to be smaller scale than that. But it will very definitely be owned by Barry Swenson Builder, just like East Cliff Village on Portola is owned by Barry Swenson Builder.
What's slated for that?
What's happening with that? Well, it's really interesting because Barry Swenson knows that the way to make return on your investment is to build housing now, because any housing built within a mile of the coast is $1 million housing, isn't it? So Swenson has been trying to build housing at East Cliff Village before renovating and fixing up East Cliff Village the way those of us, if you used to shop at the grocery store there or use the post office. And so they don't want to spend money where they're not going to get the best return. And right now, the best return is housing. And we may end up even seeing housing at 7th and Bromer. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen there? But so far, Swenson is not built. And Barry Swenson is also not building that other lot at the intersection of 17th and Bromer, where 25 years ago they were going to build a Wendy's. Somebody was going to build the Wendy's drive-through. And that lot has been sitting vacant for over 20 years. Same thing. I can't answer for Barry Swenson Builder. This would probably all be educated guesses.
There's one other question? No? Back here?
Yeah.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Mark.
It's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Appreciate you coming out tonight and your service, and switching gears now from Don't Bury the Library to the Friends of the Harbor. I looked at the plans recently, the proposed PUD for the development, and I'm really concerned about the density, and of course you're getting involved in getting public feedback. It's important to look at the environmental, considerations and impacts along that upper reaches of the harbor, particularly as it adjoins Aronic Gulch. And I just want people to be aware that's a very environmentally sensitive and has a history of being a very environmentally sensitive treasure along the coast here. So I think once you develop a local community planning group, you can apply pressure to the development interest.
Yeah.
And perhaps coax some good open space and good designs, in the harbor area. Because once those developments are, approved, you're going to have major impacts on the upper reaches of that harbor. They're going to want to claim harbor rights, boating rights. It's going to turn into a zoo. So it's important that the community planning group through the planning, through the California Planning Act, the California Land Use Planning Act, 1969, I believe it is. It's been around for 40 years. That you really develop a input to the planning commission process. Don't let them slip.
Yeah, no, we don't. Make no mistake, Mark, we're on it. And this particular parcel, incidentally, is in the coastal zone. And so there are restrictions as to what can or cannot be done, simply because it will have to go before the Coastal Commission. And that's one of the reasons that there weren't very many people who submitted a proposal, because it's going to cost a lot of money to develop that, to go through all the hoops that the developer is going to have to go through, which it should cost. They should have to go through all those hoops. And the Coastal Commission, actually, there is a piece of that property. It's to the west part of the property where all the trees are now. There's 2 acres. No, it's not 2 acres. Michael, how many? Huh? 2.3. Isn't it nice to have a partner here who can come in? 2.3 acres cannot be developed at all. It has to remain open space. And so that the entire parcel is not going to be covered. The biggest impacts are going to be to those who, 7th Avenue doesn't look like it, but it really is residential. We live on 7th Avenue. And when I moved there almost 30 years ago, there was not very much traffic. And now we have 14,000 vehicle trips a day on 7th Avenue. And so any amount of development that adds to that traffic, in terms of also not just small vehicles, but delivery trucks, is going to be important. And closing, I would like to, as long as I've mentioned 7th Avenue and I live there, I'm going to ask all of you, the next time you're in your vehicle driving down our street, 7th Avenue, please remember that the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. And that's not a minimum, that's a maximum. So if you will stay within that 25 miles per hour, I promise you when I drive down your street, I will do the same thing out of respect for you. Thanks.
Thank you.